thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate your time. We're going to dig into the engagement journey. You may notice two things if you're especially astute. One, I am not Bobby Tishy. He could not make it today, so I'm Cole Fisher. I'm a solution consultant at Lev. And two, you may notice that I will not be explaining Interaction Studio via interpretive dance. As I suggested to my colleagues, that was voted down very quickly. So unfortunately, we're not going to get to see that. I know. I was at a well-known retailer recently, and I'm going through the checkout process, and they asked me if I want to sign up for email, and of course, being a perpetually curious, marketer, I do. So I go through, I sign up, post-purchase, and I notice these messages coming in. And by all means, it's our normal best practices types of welcome email. Here's more about us, follow us on social, become a VIP, whatever. Immediately triggered within the hour, all things are relatively best practice. But I got to thinking, if I've already gone through the discovery phase, I already know about the customer, I already know about the company, and I've already made the purchase decision, do I really need the about us and who we are? I've kind of passed all that in my life cycle already. And so I got to thinking, we're kind of doing this whole thing backwards. We're doing the engagement wrong. In order to kind of see what the next step is for us to really get adaptive behavior with this, it's best to kind of focus on where we've been. So in the past, when knights and rooks and bishops were a thing, batch and blast and broadcast was normal. It was okay. We would just spray and pray and hope our message landed somewhere. We've come a long way since then. We've got dynamic content, segmentation, personalized web and product and content recommendations. We've really taken a lot of strides since then. So we're doing much better, but the fact of the matter is, we're still dictating to the customer how we think they should be interacting with our product, our brands, things like that. So really the next level for us is allowing the customer, who is now more well-informed, more intelligent, and pickier than they've ever been before, we should be listening to them tell us what the experience they is. I mean, has anybody ever had a relationship end because they're not listening? Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I heard that was the reason, but I wasn't really paying attention. But ultimately, that's what is at risk here. We're at risk of getting dumped by our customer because we're the ones doing all the talking, and we're not listening to them. So there are a few customers that are doing this very well right now. There are some companies out there that do an excellent job of this. Castlight is one of them. They're a healthcare technology company. They collect and aggregate individual profiles and healthcare data and allow us to communicate with them. So for instance, if I go to a cardiologist, which after my diet this week probably be a good idea, but if I go to a cardiologist later this week, I will receive customized content from Castlight if I have them part of my benefits package that will say, here's pertinent information regarding your results. Here are healthy living tips and diet tips that you may need to incorporate in your everyday living, things like that. And it's all directly tailored to what my individual condition may be. NBC Golf is another one. They're doing this extremely well. They're using real-time weather updates to segment, target, and geolocate users who may be near golf courses and things like that with real-time weather condition updates. And then Evernote is another company. They've built an entire customer data engine that real-time communicates and collects data on how their web app, their mobile app, is being used and how the frequency across the board, and then they're delivering real-time messages based on that type of engagement. So there are companies that are doing this very well right now. But that kind of brings us to the forefront of what this next step into that type of real-time engagement is, that allowing the customer to dictate to us the type of journey that they want to take. So Interaction Studio, I'm sure we've heard a lot of rumblings about it and the excitement around the launch this week for it. But what it is basically something that aggregates across channels data from whether you're viewing on a website, whether you're in a mobile app, SDKs on a mobile app, things like that can real-time communicate to your current experience. So I'll get into what that means in just a sec, but I love this definition that Thunderhead, so Thunderhead is the company that came up with Interaction Studio, that developed it. And what they describe customer engagement as is an ongoing value-driven, I feel that's key, value-driven relationship between a customer and a business, which is consciously being motivated according to the customer's reasons and choices. So that's kind of this whole paradigm shift of us going from dictating what we want the consumer to do and how we want them to interact versus giving them the freedom to tell us how they want this interaction to go. So there's really 6 main channels that we're going to be, that we focus on across this sort of customer engagement. So we've got your regular websites or blogs, things like that, transactional, mobile apps or PWAs, CRM or in-person assistance, and then obviously email. That's one that we won't leave out of connection. So let's say hypothetically, you guys enjoy this spiel so much, you guys decided to pull together and throw a bunch of funds into lump sum and give me a bunch of money for it. You guys are too generous, and I really appreciate it. And so I'll take that newly founded wealth, and I'll look at investment options for myself. So I go to Cumulus Bank, and you'll notice when I actually land on Cumulus Bank, you'll see in the pink box here the normal static options for content that are being served to me. They don't know me, I've never been here before, this is my first time visit. So I just get the status quo. The banner here is the same, the pink box content is all just the same. But I go through, I poke around, and maybe I look at some CDs, PMAs, IRA options, things like that, to invest my wonderful new wealth in. Within that same visit, I actually go back to the home page, and now my experience is being tailored to what I'm actually looking at. So you can see here in the pink box, I'm now being showed CDs and PMA offers and things like that. Even the banner over here has offered me the ability to start building a portfolio. All this is changing in real time because I'm dictating exactly what I want and what's pertinent to me. So before we kind of dive into, as we're talking about what Interaction Studio is, it's important to note also what it is not. And some of the main confusions really come from, it is not a replacement for Journey Builder. It's not going to do away with Journey Builder, or it's actually going to enhance and work with Journey Builder. It is not predictive intelligence or Einstein recommendations. It is not something that's supposed to dictate the SKU level recommendation engine. So, and it's also not just an analytics platform. It has great analytics features to it, and it will enhance analytics, but it is not any of those 1-3 things. What it really is an umbrella over all of that makes our capabilities better. So you can see anything here, a white box. These are all the RTIM prefix. That's real-time interaction management. And so what that's allowing us to do is take real-time data that's being housed in Interaction Studio in Marketing Cloud and tie that into decisions that we're making in Journey. So we can trigger based on whether or not they're an eligible, saturated, or blocked user, or it offers us the ability to have all of this data reside natively within Marketing Cloud, and no longer, if I need to pull in e-commerce data, I'm not actually looking for data inputs from my e-commerce platform. And if I want to look at loyalty program, I don't need to have that tied in as a data input, because all that now resides housed in Interaction Studio. And so in real time, I'm getting that, and it allows those of us that implement these types of features the ability not to have to build all these data inputs and implementation, maybe a lot more of a complicated implementation strategy than we really wanted to. So let's say along this Cumulus Bank journey that I'm having, I receive an email, and maybe it's tailored to PMAs because that's what I'm spending most of my time on the site. It may pique my interest, I open it, I click it, all that's being recorded in real time within Interaction Studio. And at the same time, if I receive, if it piques my interest enough and I go into a brick and mortar location, or if I call via my mobile straight into a location, they'll actually have my information and what I'm looking at. So on site or on a call center, CRM is actually receiving this data in real time as well. So a financial analyst or an advisor or something like that is making an appointment with me or talking, even over the counter or over a call center. They can say, we notice you're looking at PMA, here are the options. They can even have the option to book an appointment right there. At the same time, we're serving next best actions to say, if we start to talk and I discover that maybe PMA is not the best option for me and maybe IRA or something is, they can actually note that right there in the CRM, and my next, my subsequent interactions with them, whether I go to the site, whether I receive emails from them, will now no longer push PMA information to me. That content has been turned down. I said I didn't want it, therefore we're no longer serving it to me. And so now I'm receiving IRA or whatever the next best action really is for me. And within CRM also, we'll notice that we can track the top here's the customer life cycle. And so it shows us where they are in the life cycle, what products have piqued their interest, what they're looking at. And then below this, we see the touch points, the individual touch points that have been had. We can scroll through a number of these. You see the first two are call center. And so we can tell where they've been talking to somebody in person, whether they've been on the site, whether they've been tracked by the mobile SDK. So what this is essentially doing is Interaction Studio is kind of casting across all these channels, those 6 channels that we mentioned, almost like, picture it like a Google Tag Manager, where you're using a mobile SDK or you're using some JavaScript snippet on an actual website. And so that is tracking across all of our channels and communicating in one aggregated location within Interaction Studio under Marketing Cloud's umbrella what we're doing and feeds that in real time back to the consumer. So the 3 main things that we want to think about here is, number 1, like we talked about, the consumer is more well-informed, more intelligent than they've ever been. And they have more options than they've ever had before. And so let them dictate to you how they want to experience this brand, how they want to interact with your products in the channels in which you serve. Secondly, to offer that in real time. So these are, I'm not talking, day of triggers or same week or wait until the FTP file is dropped for the next batch automation or anything like that. I'm talking immediate interaction. And then thirdly, you may think that your welcome email is doing incredibly well right now, and by all measures it probably is. Welcome emails do extremely well, but the fact of the matter is, even though it's driving valuable revenue, even though it's having high engagement, there's always room for improvement. If we're not challenging the status quo, if we're not stepping into the new innovation and challenging what our current programs are, then we're going to be stagnant and find ourselves very well equipped for a consumer marketplace that no longer exists for us. So lastly, I'm going to wrap this up now, but if there's more information needed, or if you'd like to download the infographic on our website, levelmanagement.com/connections, please head there and check it out. Otherwise, I'm going to be up front, hanging out for a little bit. I can answer some questions, you have ideas, or if you guys want to pool that lump sum investment together for me, that'd be fantastic as well. So thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a great week.